I'm about to tell you about the first major glow up in detail. I'm going to go over the key components that initiated this huge major glow up, and the following components I will tell you that were initiated my out-of-body experience, and it's a beautiful thing. I want everybody to know this, so hopefully they can initiate theirs as well. I filed for divorce in 2022, 23. I'm still trying to get my ex-wife served papers, and I wrote a letter to her, basically telling her what was going on. She was very difficult to get in touch with. I never even really saw her much during my marriage. She was always gone working or trying to be with her family in China. You know, when people are suffering through terminal illnesses, it could be stressful. So, but I wrote her this letter. I'm gonna read to you the actual letter I wrote to her. We're at this point in our lives where we must go our separate ways. I wish you the best for you on your life's journey. I want to thank you for the time we shared together and the life lesson I was able to learn during that time. As we take our different paths through life, we must take these lessons that we learned and put them into practice for the greater good of all. I thank you for all the time that we shared during the past few years. Please always remember that life has lessons that we must learn from in order for us to grow and move on to bigger and better things. If you fail to learn those lessons, we are forced to repeat those cycles over and over again. Please remember that you're never alone. God is always inside of all of us. And when you think or feel emptiness inside, just remember that it's not empty. It's full of God's love. Please take care of yourself, and I wish you have a life full of abundance, love, joy, and blessings for you on the rest of your journey. Peace be with you. Sincerely, Todd. So I wrote her that, and then I sat down to myself, and I released her to God. So I basically said, God, thank you for this lesson. You know, I was upset that it kind of ended up the way it was. It saddened me that it like transpired the way it did, but it is what it is, and I hold no grudge, resentment, anger, frustration towards it. I do not want to live in the past, and I release her and I forgive her of everything. And as soon as I said that out loud, there was a switch that flipped. I didn't have to say it much because I was already set. I realized that I had to release her and forgive her and forgive myself. And that's when I finished the lesson for self-love, because that's why I was releasing her. She wasn't reciprocal. She didn't reciprocate any of the love that I put into the marriage, which is not her fault at all. It's my fault and my lesson. You know, she had a different lesson to learn, but I don't know if she learned it or not, and that's not for me to know. You know, that's only for her and God. But for my lesson, I learned self-love, and to only go into relationships for any reason, business or romantic or just friendship, that's reciprocal. You don't want to get used by anyone. You know, you want things to be equal. Everybody does. So then the switch flipped, and it was a noticeable like switch, like it was a switch like you turning on the lights on, like you flipped it on the light. I could feel it. Something clicked inside. And then I looked at the girl that I was trying to date. That was also initiated me realizing it's like I was tired of being alone. Why am I being married to somebody that wasn't being reciprocal? So I wanted to have a life partner. I wanted to be with somebody that wanted to be with me equally, not just using me. It's easy to be used when you're an empath and you're always worried about everybody else other than yourself. So that self-love lesson was learned, and I'm not going to put myself in that situation. And I would rather not be in any relationship that wasn't reciprocal. So being single and celibate is way better than being with somebody and being miserable. Now, I was trying to go out with another girl that wanted to be with me, but every time I had to do something towards my divorce, she would like leave me. So that was a codependent runner-chaser dynamic from a childhood wound that she had. And I recognized that wound. And I was frustrated and upset that she would constantly do this codependent runner-chaser behavior. And so I forgave her. I realized if she doesn't want to heal this wound, then I must release her as well. So I forgave her, thanked God for the lesson, and I released her to the universe. And I wished her the best. And that was a big shift there too. Because I felt sad that every time I turned in paperwork for the lawyer in New York and I could get back to North Carolina, that she would never talk to me. Like she just refused to talk to me because I went to New York. And that would make me sad. And then I just had to think about it as like, why am I getting upset about this? I control my emotions. I control my feelings. There's no reason I should be depressed or sad. We control how we feel. So if we don't have any control over that, we must go outside and learn how to do stuff like when we were kids. Go outside and play. I mean, a kid that gets injured riding his bike or her bike, they go over to their mother or father and, you know, they kiss the wound and magically everything's happy again. You know, it's that kind of instance, even as adults, but we don't realize it. It's we control that ability to flip that switch. We got to flip that switch in ourselves to realize, okay, yeah, that kind of sucks that they left, but that's not a trauma I want to keep repeating over and over again whenever they get upset and they don't want to talk to you just because you had to go do something where they weren't involved. That's their trauma they need to heal. And I don't want to take that on. So I flipped that switch. I became happy that she left. I became happy that she wouldn't contact me. Just because I went to turn in the paperwork to the lawyer. And as soon as I was happy about that, something started to change again. So I released her to God. I forgave her of everything. And I thanked God for teaching me this lesson too. Because I recognized that was a pattern that I wasn't going to follow again. There was a cycle where I don't need that codependent relationship. I don't need to chase anyone that wasn't going to be giving me equal reciprocity in our relationship. I stopped that behavior. And there was another big click and a massive shift inside of me. And this is all on the same day within like 2 hours of each other. So I ended that codependent life lesson about codependency, and I recognized patterns. So that was a big life lesson too, recognizing patterns, because that's in relationships or dating, because those cycles are constantly happening over and over again if you don't learn your lesson. And self-love lesson. I learned that self-love is the number one priority. You should always love yourself more than you love anybody else. And I felt this need, it's like calling to just lay down. So I lay down in bed without a pillow. I was laying completely flat. And I felt this urge to take a really deep breath, a very deep breath, and then hold my breath for as long as I could. And I released. And I paused. I took another deep breath, held it as long as I could, and released. I did it a third time. And on the third time I released, it was unmistakable. I left my body and I was on the other side of the universe in front of God. And it was unmistakable. As soon as I was there, it was the incredibly blinding light, incredibly blinding. And it was unconditional love. The feeling of complete unconditional love surrounded my entire essence of a soul. And it was unmistakable. I knew I was home. Instantly, I knew I was home. And I knew, I knew why I was there. I knew that this was my life's mission to be activated at a certain time. I started to be able to access my Akashic records. I talked to Yahweh all the time now. But at that time, I was like, wow, I'm back home. This is incredible. And then I went and said, thank you. And I asked, will I be back? And Yahweh said yes, multiple times this lifetime. And I said, I better get back to my body. And I went back to my body. And I vibrated so high. I wish I went to Edgar Cayce Institute and got my vibration checked at that time, because it lasted for 2 weeks straight. It was so intense. It was so incredible of a feeling. The unconditional love of God. Like, it was blinding. I mean, it was like you're staring at the sun and there's nothing you could do about it except love being a moth in a flame. Really, and it felt great. It's like I could be there all day long, all for eternity. It was where I wanted to go back to. But we're here on earthly missions and to learn lessons. So I came back to my body. I felt like I was healed, like completely healed of all wounds and trauma, and I didn't have to take medicine anymore. And that was probably my largest mistake. Because I was vibrating so high, I didn't realize I still needed to take my testosterone medicine. I still needed to take my thyroid medicine. I needed to take pain medicine, and I needed to take Adderall, and I needed to take my antidepressants, which when you're on like SSRI and you withdraw from like not taking it, normally you would go through major vertigo and you would hate it. But I didn't experience that during this withdrawal period, but I did gain a ton of weight. So please, when this happens, which is called a Kundalini Awakening, when this happens, make sure you please take your medicines. I didn't know my body was not healed, so even though I felt like it was, I kept going back to the doctor to get my levels checked, and they weren't right. Which took like 6 months before I was back on my meds, because then you gotta gradually go into some of them, and then retest constant. It takes a long time for testosterone, because that's a slow hormone drug, and thyroid. But over that period of time, I was able to fix the problems, work on the problems, find the solutions by going into the higher consciousness, accessing it through that correspondence, working with healing my body. And it's been a really great journey. That's what I wanted to tell everybody today. That self-discovery, unmistakable. And I hope this finds everybody that's on that precipice of a Kundalini Awakening. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Namaste.